Welcome to the Sales Whisper Podcast, session 32. Time for some NLP. Welcome, everybody, to the 32nd edition of the Sales Whisper Podcast. I am thrilled to be recording this the week of Christmas 2013. We've got a brand new look and feel to the Sales Whisper website. Just launched last Friday. Always launch your new website over the weekend. There's usually a little less traffic, and you can troubleshoot little gotchas and glitches which come up. But this has been a phenomenally smooth release, little minor details, but nothing like past releases, thanks to Denny and Dave. Been doing great work for me behind the scenes. I'm also thrilled to announce a new relationship with Audible.com. If you visit audiobook.com. You can get your first free audiobook on me. So check that out, wesaudiobook.com, for the little promotional special. Today's guest is Mike Bundrant. Mike runs NLPcenter.org. His main website talks about NLP, not hype. And you can join over 500 of his students and 30,000 plus subscribers through his free report on inlp.org, where it is putting an end to self-sabotage. In this interview, I talk about I've dabbled with NLP. I've looked into it, never really studied it. I had Jim Fortin on earlier on one of my early podcasts that is an NLP practitioner and hypnotherapist. So I know people that are good at this, that speak highly of it. So it was with great interest I brought Mike on to learn more about it, to bring this expertise to you. So get ready to take some notes, and here we go with Mike Bundrant. Mike, welcome to the Sales Whisper Podcast. Thanks for taking the time, man.
You bet. Thanks, Wes. Great to be here. Appreciate you having me on the show.
So you are my neighbor here in Murrieta, California, but we haven't met. I met your wife at the gym.
Yeah, we'll run into each other soon, I'm sure.
We got to talking. She showed me your site, inlpcenter.org. And, as you and I were scheduling the call, I personally don't know that much about NLP. I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's always been on my to-do list. I just haven't gotten around. So, I'm looking forward to you sharing some little nuggets around NLP and how our listeners can benefit. But for those that don't know, can you just take a few minutes, kind of tell us your story, how you got started, how you built up we haven't shared numbers yet, but you've got a tremendous following, a great business you've built online, that you work from home, right?
Work from home, full time. We make our living primarily from the INLP Center, and I don't take walk-in traffic. I've trained NLP for many, many years in person in the United States and Japan, but we make our living in an online way now, and our clients are all over the world. So it's just been, all this has happened. The online venture is less than 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it can happen pretty quickly. But you asked about my background. Out of college, in college, I was studying to be a counselor, and I finished and got my license as a mental health counselor in the state of New Mexico. But I was, probably a young, arrogant kid, but I thought that the college professors didn't necessarily know what they were talking about. And in a sense, I was right in that they were interested in theory and research, and at the time, I wasn't. I was interested in getting results with people. And someone comes to you with a problem, how do you get results? And that led me to NLP, browsing the bookstore, finding books on NLP, and I just began to practice it, invite friends over in my home, became very excited about it, and went through several NLP training courses and began teaching NLP, and eventually got the opportunity to travel abroad and teach and so forth. And all of this was in, I guess you would call, the old paradigm of marketing to individuals in your community, and gathering people in a classroom, and putting on NLP practitioner trainings in my case. And just recently, after so many years of doing this, my wife Hope said, you really ought to do it online. And I doubted whether or not you could teach NLP online because it's known as an experiential training.
Right.
However, I decided that we'd give it a go. We put all our coursework online. I designed special exercises that turns our students' environments into their classroom. So now you're not going away to a classroom learning for a week or 2 weeks or whatever the case may be, and then going back to your life and trying to integrate it. Now you're actually learning in the context of your own life. And in hindsight, I realized that that's what we did. And I'm telling you, it works. The results are better and longer lasting learning in that way, because you're not going to a training somewhere and drinking out of a fire hose and coming back with a manual and your memory of the training. You're actually learning right now, and you're applying it that day in the context of your family and your work. You're going back and you're getting feedback from me and so forth. And it's just such a smoother process. I'm blown away. So we've got hundreds of students now in our online school. We've engaged in a lot of internet marketing strategies that have really, really worked for us to attract people. So that's our story in a nutshell.
Very cool. So you started this, 20 years ago, going to school for counseling?
Yeah, it was. I got my license in 1994 as a mental health counselor, and I practiced in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, New Mexico for 10 years. And then I actually left the counseling field because I got an opportunity to run an engineering firm, of all things. And I thought,
of course, very natural.
Of course,
transition.
It's a natural fit, right? I'm telling you, it was tough making the transition, but I thought, I got to do this because since college, I spent my life in this counseling chair, and most of my clients come from the world of business. And I didn't know what it was like to have a boss, to have employees, to have a structured schedule, to deal with office politics. I mean, I was very naive in that way.
And you wanted to experience that?
Well, I don't know whether I wanted to, but once I got into it, it was really, really tough. But it was the best thing because I learned. And I ran after that project, I ran an automobile parts retailer. And then after that, I started a community newspaper with a small team of people. And so getting my hands dirty in the world of business. And now I'm back to doing mostly coaching and NLP training. And it's just broadened my perspective so much,
Right. So your site now, inlpcenter.org, is only about 3 years old?
Yeah, it's about 3 years old. And we've succeeded significantly, although it feels like we're just getting started still. But we get loads of traffic. We have over 30,000 subscribers that follow us and get our articles and so forth. And we sell the AHA solution, which is a program about self-sabotage, and the NLP practitioner certification. I do some coaching with people, and it's a steady stream of business, and I don't have to leave the house. It's
Nice.
Really great. Yeah.
So for our listeners that maybe are thinking about launching an online business, or maybe they have the beginnings of something, it's not quite firing on all cylinders, can you walk us through how you got started, like literally rubber meets the road? I mean, did you hire somebody to help you? Did you do some self-training and dabbled here and there till you perfected it? I mean, how did you pull the trigger to launch this?
There's a few things that I did that I think are really crucial. One is when you have your website, and I'd recommend WordPress. Yep. If you're going to do any blogging. But, the design doesn't have to be fancy, but you've got to get something that looks professional, because that professional look of your site is going to say credibility.
Right.
And then you've got, I took a long time to learn search engine optimization techniques. And at this point, given how Google has succeeded in sort of obliterating a lot of even the SEO techniques that worked even 2 years ago, I wouldn't worry so much about SEO anymore. But you've got to have a way to get super high caliber, insanely useful content on it. And it's got to be written really well. And if you don't have the ability to do that, then you've got to have someone on your team that can do that. We were fortunate in that I write pretty well. My wife, Hope, is a great designer. So I don't do any design. She does some writing, but not as much as I do. And so we have those capabilities in-house. But your website is really your home base. It's where all of your marketing channels are going to point. It's where your social media is going to point. It's where your efforts to connect with other websites are going to point. And when people get there, you've got to find a way to make them stick. So having a really solid home base with content on it where people, they read and they go, just by reading this content, I've gained something useful and I'd like to stick around. I'd say all of that is priority number one, to set up a home base. And then, of course, once you've got that, and by the way, there's ways to do that aren't terribly expensive. You shouldn't think that's, well, it's going to be $10,000. No, it's going to be under $1,000 if you don't do it yourself and you know where to go to get resources to do it.
Right.
So setting up that home base, I would say, is priority number one. And, of course, when you've got your website, then you have to have a way to take a good portion of those visitors and encourage them to return, and that is, usually through an email list. They put a form on the website. They sign up and say, I'm going to be notified of further activity, further posts and articles on this website. And you should have an incentive, something to give away. We give away a free half-hour video that in and of itself blows your mind, gives you just incredible tools to overcome self-sabotage. If you want to watch the video, put your email address in. You instantly get to watch the video, and now we've got you on our mailing list, and we can send you newsletters and stay in touch with you and give you more content. So you've got to have those things in place. People aren't necessarily just going to, of their own accord, return to your website just because it's great. They're not necessarily going to remember. So if you've got their email address, and there's a way you can get 30% of people to put their email address in so that they can stay on your email list. You got to have those things.
Right. So does your NLP experience help you write better content?
Yeah, I think one of the things that NLP does, NLP originally was known as the study of the structure of subjective experience and communication skills. So NLP was modeled after the great therapists of the day, Milton Erickson, the great hypnotherapist, Virginia Satir, the great family therapist, and Fritz Perls, the Gestalt therapist. These were all modes of therapy, and within those modes of psychotherapy, there were certain practitioners that could get results well beyond their peers. And so the developers of NLP said, we're going to go and figure out what these people are doing. We're going to break it down into communication patterns, and then so that we can teach it to other people. Because a lot of times really great minds don't know how to teach others what they do so they can get similar results. So that's how NLP got its start. We're going to go figure out what the people who are really successful communicators do, really great influential people. We're going to figure out what they do. We're going to break it down and teach it to other people. And thus the NLP practitioner training was created. Right. So it does help when you're communicating to people to know some of the nonverbal, some of the structural elements that motivate people. For example, when it comes to motivation, some people are motivated toward what they want. Other people are motivated away from what they don't want. So when you're writing an article, for example, and you're talking about living a healthier lifestyle, some people are going to want to live a healthier lifestyle because they're motivated to feel good or to look good. And so you're going to persuade them and motivate them through that. Other people are motivated to live a healthy lifestyle because they don't want to get sick. Somebody had diabetes, there's a family history of heart disease, and they want to avoid that. And they're not necessarily motivated by feeling great. They're afraid to get sick. And so you've got to speak to those people too. So when you learn, and this is just one example of many, when you learn the different patterns of motivation and communication, the different ways that people understand the world, then when you write or you communicate, you can, if you're communicating live with someone, you can figure out what their pattern is and speak to them in a language that they understand and will find motivating. And when you're writing an article to a general audience, you can cover all the bases so that as many people as possible will connect with it. And so those are some of the ways that learning NLP can help.
So I think I know the answer to this, but I'd like to hear it from you, the expert. You talked about writing for a general audience. How do you know the type of content? How do you know whether to write for people that are running away from something or running towards something? Is it just a lot of test and measurement?
Well, certainly we track statistics on our site when we send out an email. And I have a certain kind of, say, an away from title to an article. How many people clicked, and how did it compare to, the number of people that clicked on a toward motivation article? I write articles that talk about some of the ways that we sabotage ourselves, and basically giving people provocative bad news that they can learn how to avoid in their life. In other articles, I write about benefits of what successful people do and how you can do it too. And I get about 50-50 on that. So I tend to write both kinds of articles depending on, what mood I'm in at the time. So you've got to get the data. I do little tests on, I'll post an article to Facebook, and if it gets a lot of likes, then I'll, put it in the email and send it out. If I post the article to Facebook and it doesn't get a lot of likes, then I'll tweak the title, tweak the opening paragraph, repost it, and see if it connects better with people.
Right. So on your homepage, your lead magnet, this video, says put an end to self-sabotage.
Uh-huh.
So I have to imagine you've tested that, right? Because that, in a way, that in copywriting, it's people always, do you lead with the positive or the negative? Do you say, stop being an idiot, or do you put in, be a genius?
Yeah.
So yours is kind of, it almost is a blend, right? Put an end to self-sabotage, because it could be like achieve self-actualization or, reach your full potential.
Mm-hmm.
But you're throwing in the negative, but you're ending a negative. So,
it's sort of like overcome. There's another pattern too of motivation, which has to do with fight or flight. When people encounter adversity, some people want to flee the adversity. In other words, their motivation is to be free, to escape. Other people want to fight. Their motivation is to overcome. So I'm in that lead magnet there. I'm going for people who want to overcome, because those are the people that I want to work with. And then, but I want to work with those people who have seen the negativity, the negative results that they're producing, and they're ready. So that's sort of the thought on that one.
So overcome or put an end are basically synonymous.
Yeah, put an end is sort of, to me, it's, if you had to say fight or flight, I would say that is in definitely the take action to fight, to sort of, I'm looking for a way to be more powerful than this negative thing in my life.
Right. And I see, too, you've got the rotating banner at the top. I like the way 2 out of 3 of them are, your action verbs, right? Learn and grow, learn in a relaxed environment. You've got one with couples, so it looks like, you're hitting the individual, you're hitting the couples, and I'm sure that's not by accident either, right? Can you walk us through
that's hope. And in her design, she's very thoughtful about connecting with as many people as possible. You bet.
Right. And so, can you give us some nuggets on NLP? Like I said, I've dabbled in it. I've read about it a little bit. I've not really jumped into it, and I know a lot of people listening struggle with this because I have as well for a long time. In that I did not want to learn to be too salesy or persuasive at the risk of anybody ever accusing me of being manipulative.
Yeah.
But in reality, everything is sales. Everything is persuasion. You know, a guy put it in perspective for me. He says, look, when you go out on a date, when you first went on a date with your girlfriend before she was your wife, you showered, maybe if you were picking her up, you washed your car, you put on cologne, it's like you were putting your best foot forward. Maybe you're a slob. Maybe your car is normally dusty and McDonald's wrappers all around. So were you being manipulative, or were you trying to put your best foot forward so they could get to know you? And I'm like, that's a good point. And and I finally overcame that. But I know a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to learn NLP, I don't want to learn hypnotherapy, I don't want to learn hard closes, yada yada, because I don't want to be manipulative. But
yeah, that's a question that comes up a lot. And the truth is, because NLP is an effective set of skills, there are promoters of NLP. We all, in our camp, we call it the dark side of NLP. They use it to be manipulative. And that's why the headline of our site is NLP, not hype.
Right.
In other words, we're not into that. We're into personal growth. We're into being effective. But if the manipulation question still comes up, and I like your example, Wes, it's like, I think manipulation is a completely separate issue. In other words, you're getting ready to go on a date, and so you wash your car, you clean up real nice, you put on cologne. Why are you doing that? Well, you could be doing that to take advantage of, put yourself in the best position to take advantage of this woman when you have no good intentions, to be in a relationship or anything like that. You just want to send the message that she wants to hear so that you get what you want. Or you could do that because you want to put your best foot forward and be as effective as you can because you're really interested in exploring the potential with this person, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot in that process. You really want to see whether or not something is genuinely possible. There's two different ways that you could go about it, but the behaviors are the same. You're still cleaning up, putting on cologne, washing your car. The question is, what's in your heart? You want to help people, or do you want to take advantage of people? And that's a question that's completely independent of, in many cases, it's independent of how you go about it. NLP is one of those cases where how are you going to use these skills? Are you going to use it to take advantage of people? Well, I don't want to teach you them. Right. I only want to teach people who want to be more effective in the world and use these skills to connect with other people and have a certain integrity in their heart as opposed to a manipulative tendency.
Yeah, it's true of anything. You can learn martial arts, is it to defend yourself and protect your family, or is it to go get in a bar fight?
Right.
I mean, everything on the planet can be turned around. I mean, even the devil, he has good skills. He just uses them for bad
to hurt
purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think basically, like Dan Kennedy, I'm the professor of harsh reality. I think if people are using that as an excuse, so everybody listening to this now, if you're using that as an excuse, you need to look inward, and something's holding you back, not letting you learn all the skills you can, so you can promote and persuade, make more sales, convince more people of whatever it is you're promoting, offering. Because if you're offering something of value, you should, I always say you owe it to society.
Sure, it's helpful.
Shout it from the rooftop.
Of course.
To help them. You know, if there was a fire in their house, you would not feel bad about banging on their door, ringing their doorbell, or even throwing a rock through their window at 2 a.m. to get them out.
Absolutely.
Because the message is important. And so, you know, I'm not saying, you know, selling cars or real estate or whatever warrants breaking a window. But most people, I always say, if I arrested you for being a salesman, would there be enough evidence to convict you? You know, and most people, the answer is no.
Yeah, that's right. It's, you know, and if you've got a good message and a good service that you're providing to people that you really feel good about shouting from the rooftops, you might as well shout in a way that people are most likely to understand, because then you can help more people.
Right. Yeah, it's just learning what's effective.
Sure.
So are there some beginning kind of tips or things you can offer people, examples? I know that we'll send them to your website. Of course, we'll link to it from the notes. But is there something you can give our listeners like to kind of hold on to as a little beginning step?
Yeah, one thing I thought might be helpful to talk about would be, how is it that we motivate ourselves? And if you understand how you motivate yourself, either effectively or ineffectively, then you're going to be able to see how other people do the same and be able to help them too, and be able to motivate them more effectively. So there's a lot of different ways, as we've studied people who have a hard time motivating themselves versus people, and this is a critical part, versus people who don't have a hard time motivating themselves. There are people that don't have a hard time doing something that they don't enjoy doing. And that there are people who, when faced with something that they don't enjoy doing, can't motivate themselves to get it done. And so the work piles up, or the kitchen stays messy, or what have you. And it turns out it's really not about the task that needs to be done, but it's how you represent how you're going about motivating yourself in your mind. And so I'll give you some examples to contrast how people who motivate themselves effectively do it versus people who motivate themselves ineffectively. So let's say that you have a task that you've got to do that you don't enjoy doing, and let's just say that it could be anything, but let's just say it's you've got to
cold calling or prospecting.
Cold calling or prospecting. Okay, great. So here you are, and you're sitting, you realize, okay, I've got to do some cold calling and prospecting. I hate doing it. And so you think about, as you're trying to get yourself to do it, you think about doing that thing. And you realize that you hate it, and so you feel bad. And so it's very easy at that point, as you're picturing yourself picking up the phone again and again and again, and calling people and getting hung up on and so forth, it's very easy to put that off and say, you know what, I got other stuff that I can do. We find that people who have a hard time motivating themselves to do things that they don't necessarily enjoy, and we've all got a lot of those kinds of things in our life, they think about doing it. And as they think about doing it, they got a nice picture in their mind, and they say to themselves, oh, I hate doing that. And it's not motivating. Whereas people who get things done like that smoothly, they don't think about doing it at all. They think about having it done. Mm-hmm. And so you're sitting there, you realize you've got to do some prospecting and cold calling. And so the image that you have of yourself is sitting there feeling good after it's done with a couple of leads that you can genuinely follow up on. And you've just gotten through an hour or 2 hours. You're feeling relieved. You're feeling proud of yourself. You're sitting there with a couple of leads, and you feel great. And you say, you know what? I want to be there. And those people, it's very consistent. Those people tend to move toward getting to that point where they feel relieved. It's sort of like you're sitting in front of the kitchen. It's got dirty dishes, and you think, I've got to do the dishes. So you picture yourself slaving over the dishes, and you go, I hate this. I don't want to do it. Someone who cleans the kitchen without a problem, what they picture is a clean kitchen. It's done. This is how it's going to look. And they feel good. And it's so much easier to move toward that than it is to move toward something that you hate doing. So it's all about how you represent the task in your mind. And in order to discover that, you have to sort of go inside yourself and how am I thinking about this? And a lot of people go, well, it's doing the dishes. What's complicated about it? But you really have to get down and say, how am I thinking about this? Am I picturing something I hate, or am I picturing the result that I want? And that simple little shift makes all the difference.
So it's kind of like, I guess, a spin-off of that. Like old Zig Ziglar used to say, if you got to eat a frog, ain't no use in staring at it. And you might as well eat the biggest one first.
That's right. That's right. You're going to get to the result as quickly as you can. You've got a clear representation of where you're headed, and where you're headed is where you want to be. And that completely skips over the bad feelings that you had associated with it.
And is that kind of, I've seen some people, and I've started to do this as well in the last couple of years, when they talk about setting goals, instead of saying, I want to lose 30 pounds, instead you say, I am, this weight. I am 210 pounds of lean, ripped muscle, instead of, I want to lose 30 pounds. Is that kind of the same concept?
I think that one's a little bit different.
Okay.
In that what we're talking about in terms of motivation is picturing the result you want. I'm not necessarily for the affirmations that deny what's going on within you in the present moment. And there's a fair amount of research actually that suggests that they're not effective. In other words, if you say, I am ripped 185 pounds or whatever right now, you're saying something that isn't true.
Right.
And you know it. And you're trying to sort of steamroll something that you kind of know isn't true. I'm not saying it won't work for some people. There may be people out to say that's exactly how I did it.
Right.
But I would be more for creating a future representation of where you want to be and feeling like I'm moving toward that, as opposed to saying this is how I am right now. Just a little technical detail. How
would you rewrite those goals? We have New Year's Eve coming up fast. We're recording this on December 3rd. So a lot of people are going to be writing down goals to lose weight and get in shape. So how would you encourage somebody to write down a goal like that?
I would encourage people, actually, we may need to talk about this again in a month, because I have a new thing I'm actually not ready to announce yet. It's called inverted goals. Okay. It's actually a goal that draws out of you the obstacle that's in your way and helps your brain deal with that and assimilate that obstacle and eliminate it. But it's really powerful stuff. It's too soon for me to talk about it right now. Okay. But I would set a positive, achievable goal. So your goal is to weigh X amount. You set a positive representation. Not I want to lose this much weight, but I want to weigh this amount. And the more specific you can get about it, I want to weigh X pounds. And whatever that case may be, and you create a nice positive representation in your mind of what that is. And then I would focus on how are you motivating yourself to do what you need to do. And here we go to, all right, you've got to exercise. Might not be that much of a problem if you enjoy exercise. A lot of people don't enjoy exercise. So what do? It's time to go to the gym. They picture themselves slaving away on a treadmill or an elliptical, and they go, I hate exercise. And it's really hard to get out the door. And so if that's an issue for you, rather than thinking about exercising, think about how you'll feel after you're done on that treadmill. So you're standing there, you've just completed your session on the treadmill, you're feeling energized, and you're moving toward your goal. I want to get there. That's how I want to feel in, 45 minutes from now.
Right.
Don't picture yourself doing stuff you hate and then try to force yourself to do it. That doesn't work.
Right. I'm just starting to think about this. It's funny. In my sales training, one of the things I cover with sales managers is manage activity and pay on results. Because too many times it's like, go lose 30 pounds, right? They'll hit a salesperson and say, hey, you have $1 million quota this year, go get them. And they never tell them how to do it. And, and I get down, rubber meets the road, what's your goal? What's the average sale? What percent actually buy then when you give a proposal? How many proposals do you have to create to get one accepted? How many appointments do you have to get a proposal? And so we back that all the way down, kind of like your inverted goals, all the way down to how many calls do you need to make a day? How many people do you need to see every week? And so,
that's brilliant. That's just beautiful.
So maybe like in this, instead of, I've lost 30 pounds or I'm 180 pounds, maybe it'd be something like, if you look at your goal, if I eat 2,000 calories a day for 90 days, I'll lose 15 pounds and hit my goal. So maybe something would be like, I eat 2,000 calories of quality food a day.
Yeah, I really like this. This is one of the other major motivational strategies and makes a difference between when people are effective versus ineffective at getting things done. In NLP, we call it chunking, which refers to the chunk of information or the amount of information that you're dealing with at any one time. And when you have a ton of information to deal with, we don't process. Our conscious mind is pretty limited in terms of what we can process, 7 plus or minus 2 chunks of information. And we get overwhelmed pretty easily. So like you said, you got $1 million quota, go get them. That's a really overwhelming thing because immediately all the number of tasks that you have to do swirl around in your mind. You've got this huge chunk of time, this massive goal, and a ton of tasks that you have to do that you're trying to consider all at once. So what you've done and what effective people do is you've chunked it down. We call it chunking it down. You've broken it down into manageable sizes so that people don't get overwhelmed. And overwhelm is one of the major obstacles to motivation. We think about this massive chunk, we get overwhelmed. And people can do it just staring at a messy desk, get overwhelmed. They actually have to break that down further too. I'm going to put the stapler here. You have to break it down into something that's not overwhelming at all, that feels like I can do this right now, and then take it one piece at a time. How do you eat an elephant? Well, right. You eat it one bite at a time.
Right. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, what parting words of wisdom would you have for our listeners?
Parting words of wisdom. One of the things in NLP that is often taught, which is all about learning these skills to become more powerful and influential and successful. And I think a lot of that is absolutely true. But one of the ways that I approach it, which I think is more interesting and effective, is to learn all you can about how your mind works and about human behavior. It's going to make you a better communicator. It's going to make you a better manager, a better salesperson. If you really have insight into how the psyche operates, how your own psyche operates, you're going to learn a lot about other people too in that process. And so why not become, no matter what your career is, why not become a student of personal development? And more than any other thing that you can do, that, I believe, will take you further down the road toward success than anything.
Right. Very nice. Well, I'm happy to have you back on a month or two, whatever. We can update the blog post as well with this podcast, but with your new release. But sure. I encourage everybody, visit inlpcenter.org and You can also follow Mike there, but check out the Put an End to Self-Sabotage, because no matter how successful you are, we all are not reaching our potential in some area. Whether it's fitness or family or faith or business, or even maybe your business is great, but there's an area in your business that isn't great. So, we can don't you think we're all self-sabotaging to some degree somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. I even think more than, no matter how many tools you have, if you're getting in your own way, you've just rendered all of your tools unavailable.
Right.
And so many of us can, make a list of all the things that we know to do to improve ourselves and our situation, but we're not doing those things. And that is what we're getting at when it comes to self-sabotage. You get out of your own way, you get the self-sabotage handled, all of a sudden all of the tools and strategies and what have you that you have at your disposal become immediately energized and effective because you're using them.
Right. All right. Well, fantastic, Mike. Thanks. We had to reschedule once or twice, but it was worth the effort.
I had a good time. Really appreciate it, Wes.
I'm in Phoenix this week, but I'll be back Friday. Let's get together next week or two and put a face to a name.
You bet. I'll see you down at the gym.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
There you have it. Fantastic words of wisdom from Mike. I love how we started out talking about just the business in general, how he got started. He's a WordPress fan, as I am. We recommend that to all entrepreneurs starting out. And even if you've got a proven, reliable, successful business, if it's built on an older platform, it's worth looking at WordPress. He focused back in the day on SEO, as I have, but again, Google keeps changing things. So rather than trying to game the system, which I have never done when it comes to SEO, we just talk about putting out, what did he say, insanely good, valuable content. That's the name of the game today. Check out Gary Vaynerchuk's books, The Thank You Economy. I'm reading right now this Christmas, the Jab, 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 Right Hook. So, he's spoken about all the time, giving, but you also need to make that right hook, which is asking for the sale. But it is still very much the thank you economy. You've got to give. You've got to produce that great content. It helps you stand out from the crowd. But go back, check out Mike's website, inlp.org. Check out his Putting an End to Self-Sabotage free report, because we are all holding back on something. We are letting something in our psyche, down in our gut, hold us back. So no matter what it is, there's always something in your life you can work on and improve. So look at what's holding you back, figure out why it's holding you back, and overcome that, and continue to reach new levels. That's why I liked having Mike on the show. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, my new relationship with Audible, please visit wesaudiobook.com. Get yourself a free audiobook. And if you'd like to earn $500 to $1,500 for referrals that buy Infusionsoft from me, please visit referwes.com. Let me know who you are. Let me know who they are. And I'll speak with them. And if they order Infusionsoft because of your recommendation and they order it from me, I will send you some money. And as always, please take a moment to visit thesaleswhisperer.com, leave a comment on the podcast, visit iTunes, and leave an honest review. Let me know what you like, how we can improve. I appreciate getting that input. And continue recommending this to your friends and family, and sell different and good selling. Thanks for listening.